Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Muhammad Dipo Hasbi from class 33 for B07 with student number 33221076. Now I'm gonna tell you about alliteration and imagery in poetry. Let's continue. So, first, what is alliteration? Alliteration is the repetition of the same sound at the start of a series of words in succession. Whole purpose is to provide an audible pause that gives a piece of writing a lulling, a lyrical, and emotive effect. For example, while I nod nearly tapping, suddenly came a tapping by Driven by Edgar Allan Poe. Let's continue. Here's another definition of alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of the same sound across the start of several words in a line of text. The words come from Latin litera, meaning letter of the alphabet. The current definition of alliteration has been in use since the 1650s. In alliteration, the words should flow in quick succession. Think of wicked witch, loose lips, or the tumble of F sound in the line. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, from William Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. Now, in poetry, alliteration in poetry has another key factor in determining alliteration is the poem's matter. To create the harmonious pattern of alliteration, the repetition of a letter sound must fall at the start of the start syllable. Way to use alliteration. The main reason to use alliteration in poetry that it sounds so pleasing. It means to get the attention of the readers or listeners. Now we continue to our material, imagery. So what is imagery? Imagery is the expression paint a picture with words. In poetry and literature, this is known as imagery. The use of figurative language to evoke a sensory experience in the reader. When a poet uses a descriptive language well, they play to the reader's sense, providing them with sights, tastes, smells, sounds, internal and external feelings, and even internal emotion. The sensory details in imagery bring works to life. So, imagery allows readers to clearly see, touch, taste, smell, and hear what is happening, and in some cases, even emphasize with the poet or their subject. Now, there are seven types of imagery in poetry. The first one is visual imagery, auditory imagery, gustatory imagery, tactile imagery, olfactory imagery, kinesthetic imagery, and the last one is organic imagery. So there are seven type of imagery in poetry. So, what is visual imagery? Visual imagery works with our sense of sight and help us to imagine how something looks. For example, her hair was flaming red. And then the next one, auditory imagery. Auditory imagery works with our sense of sound. For example, the dog whimpered in fear. Now the third is gustatory imagery. Gustatory imagery works with our sense of taste. For example, her honeyed voice. The fourth is tactile imagery. Tactile imagery works with our sense of touch and help us to imagine what something might feel Like, for example, her skin was smooth as silk. The fifth, olfactory imagery. Olfactory imagery works with our sense of smell. For example, something was making the room smell sour like vinegar. A sour kind of smell, like it hadn't been looked after properly in a while. The sixth is kinesthetic imagery. Kinesthetic imagery is derived from the word kinetic, which means movement or motion. Kinesthetic imagery, therefore, is a type of imagery that describes the action and movement or of people or objects. For example, she rummaged through the trash, tossing pieces of garbage out of the bin until she finally found the letter that her father accidentally threw away. Now, for the last imagery, thus, imagery is organic imagery. Organic imagery is arguably the most difficult and complex form of imagery. This is primarily because it is subjective and it deals with directly creating specific emotions or feeling within the reader. In other words, organic imagery entails the use of words and phrases that make the reader feel elated, nostalgic, fearful, sad, hungry, tired, thirsty, and more. So, that's all for our material for today for the material imagery and alliteration. Thank you so much for watching the video. See you again. Bye.